mysterious archaeological discoveries. Number 12. The RHODOPE stones. It was way back in 1938 when an archaeological expedition that was led by Dr. Chi Pu Tai into the Bayan Karaula Mountains of China made an incredible find in a number of caves that had seemingly been lived in by some ancient culture. They were measured at about 9 inches in diameter, and they each had a circle that was cut from the center and was engraved with a spiral groove, and dated at around 10,000 to 12,000 years old. The spiral groove is actually made out of small hieroglyphics that tell the unbelievable story of ships from a distant world that crash-landed into the mountains. The people piloting the ships referred to themselves as Dropas, and the remains of their descendants were found in the caves. Number 11. The BAGHDAD battery. This 2,000-year-old mechanism is made up of a 5.5-inch high clay vessel, the inside of which was a copper cylinder that is held in place by asphalt. Inside of the cylinder, scientists discovered an iron rod that had oxidized. Back in 1940, Wilhelm Koenig, who was the German director of the National Museum of Iraq, proposed that these could be galvanic cells that were maybe used for electroplating gold onto silver objects. No one has been able to prove his theory wrong, especially considering that the battery only needed to be filled with an acid or alkaline substance to create an electric charge. Many people believe that this wasn't a very effective battery. Number 10. The BOLSHOI Zayatsky labyrinths. The enigma of the spiral-shaped stone labyrinths that are found at the BOLSHOI Zayatsky Island in northern Russia still remains unresolved. Dating all the way back to 3000 BC, these 35 peculiar labyrinths that are well preserved were built by the prehistoric citizens of the island, who constructed villages along with several sacred sites. The true purpose of this site hasn't been figured out yet, but some researchers believed that these labyrinths served as a sort of gateway for the people that once lived here, a gateway from our world to the other side. Number 9. The 300,000-year-old nanostructures. Even though the archaeologists' actual purpose was the extraction of gold, they happened to discover something that would prove to be of far more interest and value. What they had discovered were these nanostructures, coils, spirals, and shafts, during a geological research that took place in the Ural Mountains in Russia. The small objects were then looked at by the Russian Academy of Sciences. No one has been able to identify what the purpose of these items is or their function. Number 8. The NAZCA drawings. The NAZCA drawings certainly have something otherworldly tied to them. Found in 1930 when the US introduced 2 new commercial lines, some of the drawings are measured at being more than 600 feet in length. They portray lines, animals, and geometrical figures that haven't been entirely figured out yet, though many think they're constellations. These designs, who or whatever they were made for, were clearly meant to be seen from up above. Scientists haven't been able to figure out how these could have been made without someone orchestrating the work from above. One can only wonder and marvel how it is these drawings came to be. Number 7. The PIRI REIS map. Back in 1929, there was a group of historians that made what can only be chronicled as an astonishing find that happened to be documented on the skin of a gazelle. After much research and studying, they discovered it to be a genuine map that was drawn in 1513 by PIRI REIS, who was a well-documented admiral in the Turkish Navy. He illustrated Europe and North Africa, along with the coast of Brazil, several islands, and even Antarctica, which was believed to have been found more than 300 years later. The most baffling thing is that Antarctica's topography was depicted as not being covered in ice, yet there was a great detail. So how is it that PIRI REIS was able to map a continent that's been covered by ice for the last 6,000 years? Number 6. The Siberian Sinkholes. Located in the Yamal peninsula in Siberia, Russia, there lies one of the most fascinating and unexplained archaeological discoveries, a 115-foot deep hole in the earth that keeps baffling researchers. This bizarre occurrence was fabricated after an odd explosion. Resulting explosions made 2 more sinkholes in the northern area of Russia. The enormous holes are presumed to have been triggered by gas explosions located underneath the surface of the earth. Andrei Plekhanov, who's a senior researcher at the Scientific Research Center of the Arctic, is carrying out further investigations on these perplexing holes. Number 5. Saksaywaman. Located nearby the city of Cuzco at more than 3,500 meters above sea level, these unbelievable walls first interested the Spanish conquistadores. They were stupefied to find out how these people that they described as ignorant and lacked the ability of logical reasoning needed to build these structures could have possibly done so. The walls are actually 3 concentric walls, the average being almost 1,200 feet in length and nearly 20 feet in height, created entirely out of limestone blocks that weigh in at about 300 tons each. What's so mysterious is that there wasn't any mortar or cement used to bind the walls, and not even a sharp knife can get wedged in between 2 rocks. Scientists have tried to recreate this, but have failed. Number 4. The unfinished obelisk. This current archaeological find of an obelisk, a stone pillar set as a monument or landmark, was discovered in Aswan, Egypt. The construction of this obelisk was carried out under the order of the pharaoh Hatshepsut back in the mid-1500 BC. It was found incomplete, and the reason why still remains unknown. This is believed to be the biggest ancient obelisk to ever be built in the entire history of Egypt that we know of, and 1/3 larger than any previous obelisk ever constructed. The unfinished obelisk would have been 137 feet tall and weighing in at almost 1,200 tons if it were to have been completed. Researchers believe that Hatshepsut possibly ordered this obelisk to be built in order to complement the Lateran obelisk. Number 3. The Devil's Bible. This book happens to be the largest medieval manuscript in the entire world that we know of, also known as the Codex Gigas. The way that this manuscript came to exist happens to be shrouded in mystery. According to local legend, it's believed that the text was recorded by a 12th century monk as commanded by the devil. It allegedly took the monk only 1 night to create the whole thing, and when he finished, the devil himself marked the pages with a portrait of himself. That seems quite impossible because the text is written on 160 animal skins, and it's estimated that it would take almost 30 years to complete, along with 2 people needing to lift it. However, the handwriting implies that it was written by just 1 person through a short period of time. Number 2. The RHODOPE skull. This interesting looking skull was discovered back on May 21st, 2001, buried in the RHODOPE mountains located in Bulgaria. The 38-year-old man from Plovdiv who found it, he wishes to remain anonymous, says that 5 human-looking figures came to him in a dream and told him the exact location of where to find the skull. Paleontologists don't know what to make of it. However, both sides of skeptics and believers argue that this is either real-life proof of the existence of aliens or just an elaborate hoax. Number 1. The Sewer of Babies. It was back in 1988 when archaeologists were digging in an ancient Roman sewer that was located underneath a bathhouse in what is now Ashkelon, Israel, and made a gruesome find. They had discovered the skeletal remains of almost 100 babies. Interestingly enough, the bodies had shown no signs of any present skeletal disfigurations or diseases, and the causes of death were ruled out as natural. It was very common during that time period that daughters that were unwanted were cast aside and left out in the wilderness to die. Initially, this is what researchers believed was the case. However, most of the bodies analyzed were those of boys and left archaeologists puzzled.